It's always a struggle comparing plant protein to animal protein. That's what was done in this study here, where these human subjects were given an equal amount of beef versus soy, which is generally considered to be the best of the plant proteins, generally considered to be such. But you can see in this result here that the actual amount of muscle protein synthesis in response to the beef was substantially higher than that of the soy. In fact, the soy consumption resulted in no significant increase in muscle protein synthesis at all. And you had to give the humans at least twice as much of the soy in order to get it into a range that is even close to that seen with beef. So while some plant-based proteins, especially if it's not been fermented, may claim that it has the proper amino acid profile, that's clearly not enough. There are other unmentioned ingredients or molecules that are going to facilitate animal protein being a superior stimulus and substrate or building block when it comes to humans turning the protein they eat into the protein of their muscle.
No. It's truly baffling to me that so many influencers, doctors, or other authority figures are relying on mechanistic data. That is not a really wise thing to do, which we will actually explore in this video. I'm not going to respond to this study in particular because I would like to explore the claim about muscle protein synthesis more. However, before we do that, as soon as you watch this video, please go watch the video made by Lifting Vegan Logic and Dr. Matthew Nagra. They talked about the study that he just cited and why it's maybe not one of the best ones. Alright, let's start with the basics first. What is muscle protein synthesis? Muscle protein synthesis measures the amount of amino acids that are incorporated in muscle proteins, while muscle protein breakdown refers to the continuous degradation of muscle proteins. In other words, you want muscle protein synthesis to exceed muscle protein breakdown to build muscles. However, focusing solely on muscle protein synthesis when it comes to muscle growth is not a wise thing to do, as the following review has broken down greatly. This study, released in 2021, looked at the overall literature to determine the role of muscle protein synthesis in muscle growth. The researchers did a fabulous job at showcasing studies in which muscle protein synthesis was indeed associated with muscle growth and where muscle protein synthesis was not associated with muscle growth. All the studies included in these two graphs were done and performed on untrained individuals. On the far right, you can see the mixed results. This pretty much refutes the claim that Dr. Ben Bikman actually was trying to convey. And again, I'm truly baffled why Dr. Ben Bikman would actually choose to just focus on mechanistic data when we actually have outcome data. Because what truly interests me, you, and I guess also Dr. Bikman is what happens to people if we expose themselves to a 100% plant-based diet and an omnivorous diet and actually make them undergo the same resistance training and match the proteins. On top of that, we follow those people for a very long time and measure muscle growth at the end of the study. If plant-based protein truly was inferior to animal-based proteins, the group eating a plant-based diet and a strict plant-based diet at that wouldn't be able to make as much gains as the other group. We don't just have 1, 2, but 3 studies using exactly this method. Let's have a look. This study, published by Lorraine and colleagues, recruited 19 young men who were habitual vegans and 19 young men who were omnivores. The study lasted for 12 weeks. They adjusted the protein intake for both diets to 1.6 gram per 1 kilogram of body weight per day. Protein powders were used in both diets. The vegans used soy and the omnivores used whey protein. What were the results? There was no difference in muscle growth between both groups. Let's move on to the next study, the Swap Meet Athlete Trial, published by Roberts and colleagues. This was a randomized crossover trial. All the athletes, both the 12 runners and the 12 resistance trainers, had to complete all 3 phases, in which they had to eat a whole food plant-based diet, a plant-based diet which was 100% plant-based by the way, and an animal-based diet. Each of these phases lasted for 4 weeks. And the results, no significant changes in athletic performance outcomes. Let's look at the last study, which was published in 2023 by Montaigne and colleagues. They had 2 phases. In phase 1, 16 healthy young adults were recruited, which only lasted for 3 days. They had to consume a high protein diet of around 1.8 grams of protein per 1 kilogram of body weight. And of course, they compared an omnivorous diet against a strictly plant-based diet. In phase 2, they recruited more people, 22 healthy young adults, and it lasted for 10 weeks. The participants had to consume 2 grams of protein per 1 kilogram of body weight. And the results are pretty much alike the 2 other studies that we just looked at. Dr. Ben Bikman Bikman, relying just on mechanistic data can be dangerous. Training alone has the capability to increase inflammation, blood pressure, blood sugar, and many other things that we don't consider actually quite healthy for us. But I guess also you would agree that exercising is healthy. If we were just to focus solely on blood pressure, for example, I can pinpoint to the fact that exercising increases blood pressure. And we have a tremendous amount of data suggesting that high blood pressure is not good for you. But of course, everybody would be calling me out if I just did that, and rightfully so. So why are you focusing on mechanistic data when we have outcome data? It doesn't make much sense. Not just muscle protein synthesis can contribute to muscle growth, but many other things as well. What comes to my mind off the top of my head is mechanical tension, metabolic stress, hormonal factors, nutrition, age, gender, genetics, recovery, volume, and training intensity. I would really love to hear your reasoning for choosing to opt for mechanistic data when we have outcome data. What are your thoughts about this topic? Feel free to let me know in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you during my next video.